They laughed at you. They underestimated you. They used you, discarded you, and walked away without a second thought. And you stood there, frozen, feeling the weight of betrayal sink deep into your bones. You replayed every word, every lie disguised as love, every promise that crumbled the second you needed it to stand. You weren't just hurt, you were shattered. The kind of pain that makes your stomach turn, the kind that keeps you awake at night, staring at the ceiling, wondering how you could have been so blind. They played you like a fool. They made you believe in loyalty while they sharpened their knives behind your back. They smiled in your face, held your hand, looked you in the eye, while already planning your downfall. And the worst part, you let them. You gave them your trust, your time, your love, your loyalty. You handed them the blueprint to your soul, believing they would protect it, only to watch them set it on fire with a smirk. They never feared losing you. You were too predictable, too forgiving, too easy to manipulate. And when they were done, they didn't even bother to check if you survived the wreckage. You felt it, didn't you? That moment of realization, when the truth hit like a freight train, leaving you gasping for air. The silent rage that burned beneath your skin, the shame that curled around your chest like a suffocating grip. You replayed conversations, searching for clues, wishing you had seen the signs sooner. But it was too late. They were gone, and you were left with the wreckage and the world. It didn't stop for your pain. The world kept spinning. People kept smiling. And you stood there, drowning in silence, wondering how the hell you let this happen. You see, they never expected you to rise from this. They thought they broke you beyond repair. They thought this would be the end of you. They thought you'd stay small, stay weak, stay silent. They counted on you staying the same fool who once believed in their empty words. But what if I told you this was the best thing that ever happened to you? What if I told you this wasn't your ending? This was your beginning. That the betrayal you suffered wasn't a curse, but a gift. That every knife they plunged into your back was fuel for your rebirth. What if I told you that this pain, this anger, this fire burning inside of you was the exact thing you needed to finally wake up? Because here's the truth. You were never weak. You were never foolish. You were never naive. You were just too pure for a world that thrives on deception. But now you see things clearly. Now you know what people are capable of. Now you understand the cost of trust, the weight of loyalty, the power of silence. And now they have no idea what they've created. The person they played no longer exists. You died the moment you realized the truth. And in your place, something stronger, something colder, something unstoppable. Let them laugh. Let them think they won. Let them believe they walked away untouched. Because they have no idea what's coming. They have no idea that soon they won't be playing you anymore. They'll be playing by your rules. This is your wake-up call. The world will never be the same again. They smiled in your face while sharpening the knives behind your back. Every word they spoke dripped with sweetness. Every touch felt reassuring. Every promise seemed unshakable. You trusted them. You let them in. You handed them the map to your soul, believing they would protect it. But the whole time, they were studying it, searching for the weakest point to strike. And when they did, they didn't hesitate. They carved their names into your back, twisted the blade, and watched you bleed with a smirk. The moment you realized it, when the truth hit you like ice water down your spine, wasn't loud. It wasn't some grand betrayal in front of an audience. No, it was quiet. A text left on read. A conversation that felt different, colder. A laugh that sounded forced. It was in the way their eyes no longer met yours, in the way they spoke about you when they thought you weren't listening. The lies weren't even sophisticated. They weren't careful, because they never thought you'd figure it out. They thought you were too blind, too trusting, too desperate to see the truth staring you in the face. But you saw it, and when it clicked, It knocked the air from your lungs. The people you would have sworn your life on, the ones who knew your secrets, your dreams, your fears, had been playing a different game behind closed doors. You felt your stomach drop, your hands shake, your heart pound. But the worst part wasn't the betrayal itself. The worst part was realizing how long it had been happening, how long you had been living in a lie, believing in ghosts of people who never truly existed. The sting of broken trust is unlike any other pain. It burns, deep and slow, like acid seeping into open wounds. You try to reason with yourself, make sense of it. Maybe you misheard, maybe you misunderstood, but the evidence keeps piling up. The words, the actions, the missing pieces of the puzzle you once ignored. And then, humiliation floods in like a wave, crashing over you with brutal force. How could you not have seen it? How could you have been so blind? You feel exposed, stripped bare, every foolish moment replaying in your mind like a cruel joke. And they're laughing, not always out loud, not always in front of you, but they're laughing at your kindness, your trust, your belief in them. They're shaking their heads, wondering how you could have been so easy to fool. And that thought, that realization, it ignites something inside you. Not just pain, not just anger, but something deeper, something darker. A fire, a hunger, a warning. This is the lowest moment, the breaking point. But it's also the moment everything changes, because what they don't know, what they never saw coming, is that you won't stay down. You won't drown in their betrayal. Number, you will rise. And this time, you will be unrecognizable. Let them laugh. Let them think they've won. Soon enough, the game will shift, and they won't be playing you anymore. They'll be playing by your rules. You thought they would be there. You thought, after everything, after all the love you gave, all the loyalty you showed, all the battles you fought for them, they would fight for you too. That when the weight of betrayal crushed your chest, when your voice cracked from screaming into the void, when you fell to your knees with nothing left but the echoes of broken trust, they would reach for you. But they didn't. No one came. No one checked. No one cared. You learned the hardest lesson in the cruelest way. The people who swore they would stand by your side were the first to vanish when you needed them the most. They loved the version of you that was convenient, the one who smiled, the one who gave, the one who carried the weight so they didn't have to. But the moment you stumbled, the moment you fell, the moment you were the one who needed saving, silent, a cold, suffocating silence, you waited. You told yourself it was just a matter of time. Any second now, someone would knock, someone would call, someone would see the pain in your eyes and tell you, "I've got you." But no one did. The texts never came. The calls never rang. The world kept moving, indifferent, merciless, while you sat alone with the unbearable truth pressing against your chest. You were never as important to them as they were to you. You see, you thought they were family. You thought they were friends. But when you were bleeding, all you heard was silence. And that silence, that was the loudest truth you had ever faced. It screamed in your ears. It wrapped itself around your throat. It carved itself into your bones. It told you, without mercy, without hesitation, no one is coming to save you. No one is coming to make this right. If you want to survive, if you want to rise, if you want to make them regret ever leaving you in the dark, you have to do it alone. And in that moment, something inside you shifted. The pain didn't disappear, but it stopped controlling you. The loneliness didn't fade, but it stopped defining you. The betrayal still burned, but now it wasn't just a wound. It was fuel. You see, they thought they broke you. They thought they could discard you and move on without consequence. But they failed to realize one thing. You're not the type to die quietly. The silence they left you in, that was their mistake. Because in that silence, something new was born. Not weakness, not self-pity, not hopelessness, rage, determination, clarity. This isn't where your story ends. This is where it begins, because now the tears have dried, the waiting is over, and the next time they hear your name, it won't be a whisper of someone they used to know. It will be a warning. There comes a moment, one brutal, defining moment, when everything inside you snaps, when the weight of every betrayal, every cold shoulder, every silent abandonment stops crushing you and starts building you, when the grief of what was stolen from you no longer weakens you but hardens you, when the rage burning in your chest is no longer a fire that destroys, but a fire that forges. This is that moment, the moment you stop crying and start calculating, the moment you stop begging for explanations, for apologies, for justice, and start creating your own. At first, you thought they did this to you. You thought they played you, deceived you, used you, discarded you. But then it hits you, the raw, unfiltered, merciless truth. They played me? No, I let them. It wasn't their betrayal that hurt the most. It was double on your permission. It was against your blindness. It was divided your refusal to see the red flags waving right in front of you, because you wanted so badly to believe in them. You handed them the sword, believing they would protect you, and they used it to cut you open. And now, as you sit in the wreckage, you realize this isn't about them anymore. This is about Yukai. They didn't break you. They revealed you. Because you were never weak. You were never incapable. You were never naive. You were just too kind. You gave them everything, your time, your loyalty, your love, your energy, and they gave you nothing in return. You poured into them while they drained you dry. But that's over now. The game has changed. And here's the brutal reality. No one is coming to save you. No hero, no apology, no redemption arc for them. It's you against everything that tried to destroy you. And that means no more blaming, no more waiting, no more wishing. The world doesn't owe you closure. The people who hurt you aren't going to fix what they broke. But that's the best part, because now you take control. This isn't about revenge. This isn't about proving them wrong. This is about proving yourself right. About looking in the mirror and seeing someone undeniable. Someone who rose from the ashes, sharper, smarter, stronger. Someone they will no longer recognize. They thought you were the victim. They thought you were finished. They thought they could bury you and move on. But now, you are the reckoning. Now comes the transformation, the real work, the painful, merciless process of becoming what they never thought you could be. This isn't about words anymore. It isn't about dreams, about anger, about wishing things had gone differently. This is about action, about the cold, relentless discipline of reinventing yourself from the ground up. No more waiting, no more excuses, no more holding on to people, habits, and mindsets that drain you. The mad ever dead weight has to go. Friends who never truly supported you. Family members who only believed in you when it benefited them. Distractions that kept you stagnant. You cut them without hesitation, without explanation, without regret. Because the old you, the one who needed their approval, their validation, their permission, that version of you is gone. You train in silence. You build yourself in the dark, away from the noise, away from the eyes of those who expect you to fail. Because this isn't about showing off. This isn't about proving a point. This is about becoming untouchable. Discipline becomes your weapon. Mental toughness becomes your armor. Emotional control becomes your power. The world has taught you the price of weakness. It has shown you what happens when you trust too easily, when you give too freely, when you let your emotions dictate your actions. But now you move with precision. You think 3 steps ahead. You speak only when necessary. You control what they see, what they hear, what they believe. You don't beg for respect. You command it. You don't ask for power. You build it. And the best part, they don't see you coming. They think they left you behind. They think you disappeared into failure, into bitterness, into insignificance. But what they don't know, what they never saw coming, is that you were never destroyed. You were in training, and soon they will understand exactly what that means. Everything has changed. You see the world differently now. The blindfold is off. The illusions are shattered. You no longer walk through life with open hand, hoping, trusting, believing in empty words and fragile promises. You've learned, you've adapted, and now you move like a strategist, not a victim. They thought you were a pawn, someone to be moved, controlled, sacrificed when necessary. They played you like a fool, made their moves, took their victories, and walked away without a second thought. But what they never saw coming was the day you became the king. Now you don't just participate in the game, you control it. You don't react, you anticipate. You don't beg for opportunities, you create them. You don't wait to be chosen, you choose yourself. The same tactics they use to deceive, manipulate, and outmaneuver you. You've mastered them, but unlike them, you don't use these strategies out of weakness or insecurity. You use them with purpose, with discipline, with precision. You don't lash out. You don't let your emotions expose you. You move like a ghost, silent, unseen, inevitable. Here's how you outthink them. You study people. You read between the lines. You listen, not just to what they say, but what they don't say. You recognize patterns, predict behaviors, understand motives before they even recognize them in themselves. They thought you were slow. They thought you weren't paying attention, but the whole time you were taking notes. Here's how you outworked them. Relentless execution. While they celebrate small wins, you're already preparing for the next war. While they waste time feeding their ego, you sharpen your skills. While they sleep soundly in comfort, believing they've won, you are rising in the darkness, building an empire they will never be able to touch. Here's how you outmaneuver them. Silence, patience, precision. You don't reveal your plan. You don't explain your moves. You let them believe what they want to believe, all while setting the stage for their downfall. You don't play with emotions. You play with cold, calculated execution. They think they still know you. They think they still have control. But what they don't realize is that they lost the second they underestimated you. And soon, they will see exactly what that mistake has cost them. At first, they don't understand. They can feel something is different, but they can't quite put their finger on it. You move differently now. There's no hesitation in your step, no uncertainty in your voice, no desperation in your presence. You don't chase, you don't beg, you don't explain. The energy you once wasted, trying to be understood, trying to prove your worth, trying to hold on to people who never deserved you. It's gone, and that's when they start to notice. The shift is undeniable. The fool they once knew, gone. The version of you that once accepted their lies, their half-hearted loyalty, their manipulation, dead. The person standing in your place now, unrecognizable. They test the waters. They try to slip back in, sending messages that once would have unraveled you. They try the same old tricks, expecting the same reactions. But now, their words hold no weight. Their presence has no power. They are strangers knocking on a locked door, and they hate it. You see, they never expected you to move on. They never thought you would stop needing them. They thrived off your dependency, off the way you once sought their approval, off the way they controlled the narrative. But now, you don't just walk away from their games. You dismantle them. They watch from a distance now, whispering your name in rooms you no longer enter. They hear about your growth, your success, your transformation, and it rattles them. They wonder if you've changed or if they simply never knew you at all. And that's the part that terrifies them the most, because deep down, they know they played themselves. They thought you would break. They thought you would beg. They thought you would always be there, waiting, hoping, believing in them, despite the evidence against them. But now they are the ones left behind. And they wish, oh, how they wish, they had never underestimated you. There comes a moment when you realize you don't even care about revenge anymore. You don't need it. You don't need to prove anything to anyone. You don't need to drag them down, expose them, or make them feel what they made you feel. Because now, you're untouchable. Your success is the only revenge you will ever need. And the best part, it was never about them to begin with. Once they laughed at you, they mocked your dreams, underestimated your strength, assumed they could play with your emotions and walk away without consequence. But now, they don't laugh anymore. They watch, they wonder, they regret. The power dynamic has shifted completely. The people who once dismissed you, betrayed you, abandoned you, they now speak your name with hesitation, with curiosity, with a quiet, creeping fear. Because you have become something they never expected. Self-sufficient, unshaken, unstoppable. Now they approach you differently, if they approach you at all. Their voices are softer, their words are careful. Their arrogance has crumbled into something else. Respect or fear, maybe both. But here's the truth. You don't care either way. Because you are no longer playing by their rules. You don't need validation. You don't need recognition. You don't need them to acknowledge your transformation. You are operating on your own terms now. You have built yourself into something they can no longer touch, no longer manipulate, no longer control. And that is the moment you win. Not because you destroyed them, not because you got revenge, but because they are still trapped in their old ways, playing the same petty games, while you have outgrown the battlefield entirely. Look around. This is not the world you once knew. This is not the same life you once begged to be accepted in, because you are not the same person anymore. The old you, the one who was fooled, manipulated, discarded, the one who gave endlessly, trusted blindly, hoped foolishly. That version of you is gone. You buried them in the fire they tried to burn you in. You let the flames of betrayal consume your weakness, your desperation, your need for approval. And what remains? Something indestructible. You no longer chase approval. You don't wait for permission. You don't explain yourself to people who never had the capacity to understand you in the first place. You don't beg for love. You don't prove your worth. You don't look for belonging in places that only ever made you feel small. You create your own empire. Everything they took from you, you rebuilt bigger, stronger, untouchable. Every door they closed on you, you built your own and walked through it without looking back. The same people who once dismissed you, underestimated you, played you, they are now the ones watching from a distance, waiting, wondering, because the game has changed. And now, they play by your rules. This is the final lesson, the last thing you need to understand. Never be played again. You see things clearly now. You move with precision. You trust only what is earned. You walk with quiet confidence, knowing exactly who you are and what you bring to the table. They will try to test you again. The world will always try to see if the old version of you still exists somewhere, hidden in the shadows, waiting to return. But you know the truth. The old you is dead, and the new you, unstoppable. This is it, the final chapter. The moment where you leave behind not just the pain, not just the past, but the entire world that once tried to break you. They made you the villain in their story. They painted you as the fool, the failure, the weak one who would always be beneath them. They whispered lies, spread doubts, laughed in rooms you weren't invited into. They convinced themselves that you would never rise, never recover, never become anything greater than what they decided for you. But now, you have rewritten the script. You no longer live to prove them wrong. Their opinions? Irrelevant. Their judgments? Meaningless. Their regret? Not your problem. Because this was never about them. It was never about revenge. It was never about proving a point. This has always been about you. You wake up every day, no longer carrying the weight of what they did. No longer seeking validation from those who never deserved a seat at your table. You have become something greater than they ever imagined. Not because of them, not in spite of them, but because you chose to evolve. You don't move with anger anymore. You move with purpose. You don't seek apologies. You seek power. You don't look back. You move forward, always forward. They will remember you, not as the person they once knew, not as the version they thought they had control over, but as something unshakable, something untouchable, something they will never be able to reach again. This is the legacy, not of revenge, but of absolute transformation. You were not destroyed. You were not erased. You were eco-reborn. And now, the world will never be the same again.